So here we've got remote viewing, which we were talking about, which is being aware of distant locations. And if you had a blow to your left medial frontal lobe, that seems to activate it, as with yours truly, and with David Morehouse, who worked for the Stargate program until he opened his mouth too much and was sent to a mental hospital, which, you know, he got out of eventually, but it's all in his book. Anyway, let's look at remote viewing. Here's loads of remote viewing videos. Now, being the world expert on reality physics, which is the basis of all this stuff, what we're seeing here is that consciousness is not limited to the body. So, this then indicates that remote viewers are manipulating their quantum field, because of course you have to shut off the internal dialogue which comes with the parasite, the mud shadow, and intend to project your awareness to the location which in the American remote viewing research way back in the 70s was simply map coordinates, and then pick up information. How can you pick up information? Well, what you're doing is perturbing the quantum field. Where did we hear about perturbing the quantum field? Oh, I think that was with CERN, was it not? So in fact, if you wish to enhance your quantum field perturbation to get better remote viewing, you simply first broadcast your quantum field. How do I broadcast my quantum field? Well, you intend to do it. You imagine an energy, a wave, projected by your consciousness at CERN when it's doing its experiments and perturbing the quantum field. Because, of course, remote viewers found that their remote viewing was not limited by time. So you can simply amplify your feeble quantum field perturbation, which would probably in most of your cases be less than a gnat's fart, to be amplified by CERN. You wouldn't understand what I was talking about, but you've been watching and seeing that CERN's all about quantum perturbations for the American and alien psychic warfare program. Having hijacked it, anyone that's me can simply use CERN and, of course, the quantum computers. Where do I find quantum computers? Well, look them up on Google, look them up on YouTube, and you'll see, you know, the Majorano and the other ones, and the labs where they're doing it, all on YouTube and on the internet, and you can simply broadcast your quantum field there to get it more perturbed. Now, once we've perturbed the quantum field with our awareness, then we look at the next step, which is quantum entanglement, which we've talked about at length, and of course we've had excellent videos, but just to refresh, here's a short video.
Around us in everyday life. People who are taller tend to weigh more than people who are shorter, so height and weight are correlated. The amount of ice cream sold increases as the outdoor temperature goes up, so those values are also correlated. Entanglement, on the other hand, is a special kind of correlation that exists between quantum particles. But this kind of correlation is much richer than that between height and weight or ice cream and temperature. For example, two photons can be set up so that a certain property called polarization is correlated in the following sense. Initially, each photon has a certain probability of being found with a particular polarization. But once we measure one of those photons and learn its polarization, we automatically know with 100% certainty the polarization of the other. But how is that possible? And why is this the case? Well, that's the very nature of entanglement. And this is why we don't just call it correlation instead of entanglement. It turns out that the nature of quantum correlations is much different than the classical correlations we're used to experiencing. So it's helpful to have a different term to describe it. And the theory itself can get pretty technical and involved, but at this point you might already be wondering, does anyone care? And is this useful for anything? The answers are yes and yes. Entanglement is of great interest at both the scientific and philosophical levels, and due to its striking properties, has been the source of many discussions on the nature of reality. But on a more practical level, entanglement is also finding use in a number of areas, including in communication and security. For example, one popular paradigm for using entanglement in communication is when you want to take information at one location and construct or recreate that same information at another location. There are a lot of details involved, but this basic idea is at the heart of a popular protocol called quantum teleportation. Security is another common application of entanglement. In this paradigm, entanglement can be used to detect when something has been altered that shouldn't have been. For example, imagine you are a cybersecurity expert running a protocol or algorithm to protect sensitive data. Some algorithms are based on quantum physics by using pairs of particles that ought to be correlated with one another, like two photons sharing the same polarization mentioned earlier. But if you suddenly notice that your photons are no longer correlated as they should be, then that gives you a clue that something has broken down. Or even worse, that an unwelcome visitor has infiltrated your security setup. Loosely speaking, this concept is at the heart of some protocols within an area of quantum cryptography known as quantum key distribution. Security and communication are just two ways in which entanglement, a particular correlation at the quantum level, is finding applications today. In an exciting turn of events, there is still much to learn about this quantum phenomenon, both in how it may be useful in applications and the clue.
So with quantum entanglement, since your quantum perturbation is derived from your quantum field, then of course that means that when your quantum perturbation is at this distant location, it's entangled with you, and the perturbation that occurs at that distant location can transmit information back to you because the quantum fields are entangled. So that's how remote viewing works from the physics point of view. So what is important is that you have as much perturbation as possible, and therefore CERN is, and quantum computers are psi amplifiers. Hence that's why the Americans and the aliens had their Stargate project. So now you understand why. So you can see in the Wheel of Time, the American psychic warfare program, trying to embed within it the amplification of psychic powers for those who've got psychic powers. Because remember, in the Wheel of Time, most people are norms, and only the elite can channel. And since the vast population wouldn't know a psychic power from a hole in the road, then of course it's only their operators that will be using this amplification that was supposed to come from CERN and the quantum computers, which of course are linked up to their remote viewers using hypnotic remote viewing. So they basically put them in a hypnotic trance, cause alters, and only one of the alters can display psychic powers. So it's the perfect way of having psychic warfare operators as wetware, but no danger to the ruling class. Because remember, you don't want simple psychic soldiers getting above themselves and using their powers to climb up the pecking order and become the ruling class. So you can see the ruling class are terrified of psychic warfare and these powers, no matter what country you're in, for the simple reason that you don't want to give your soldiers the ability to usurp you and take over the country. Like, for example, Colonel Gaddafi taking over Libya. Many African general that's taken over, like Idi Amin, the country. The same with Saddam Hussein. The same with South American generals that have taken over their countries. Look at Argentina, where the junta took over the country. So you can see with the potential for these powers, you definitely do not want your psychic warfare operators being able to use those abilities for themselves. So hypnotic remote viewing, which was explained to me, and I got a manual from the CIA chappie that came to see me in '97. They connect the remote viewer to a computer, and then they can see on a monitor exactly what the remote viewer is seeing. And of course, if you put the psychic warfare operator through MK Ultra to give them many alters, then that psychic warfare operator won't be able to use those powers, because only one alter can use it, and only his masters can activate it within him. So he's basically like a gun. It can't fire itself. It can only be fired by the finger on the trigger, which of course are the ruling class, who don't want these extremely dangerous weapon systems to be able to use the powers themselves. So with hypnotic remote viewing, you simply can MK Ultra, which is hypnotically mind control, which is all about MK Ultra, the US military operators, and then of course you can put them in that state when they're hooked up via the Neuralink to the quantum computer. That of course is linked up to CERN and the Borg, which then of course can then use the wetware, as in Babylon 5, where the telepaths were all neurochipped to the gazoo and then hooked up to the Shadow's ships and were simply wetware components of the ships, so spaceships. So this is how the majority of the American psychic warfare program works, for obvious reasons. They don't want people like me wandering around, do they? That'd be bad business. They get crushed like fleas and the ramblings would have no effect on reality. So you can see why the entire ruling class does not want me teaching my powers and proclivities to their psychic soldiers, because then of course they're making a rod for their own back. The American way, which is have them as alters, totally mind controlled to gazoo, neurolinked with internal implants that can link them to the quantum computer, to CERN, which of course is via the quantum computer using the Borg for amplification. Then of course you get picture perfect quality remote viewing on your TV screen. And of course you can encapsulate this idea of psychic amplification. How? Well, we simply having the Wheel of Time for the American Psychic Warfare Program. That orb there, which has been sequestered by my little rose quartz orb under it, that can be used by the female US psychic warfare operators to amplify their powers. How? Well, you're shaping the consciousness, the quantum field of the observers who are watching the Wheel of Time. Remember in the books, this all doesn't exist. The ultimate female psychic amplifier, or sangreal within the Wheel of Time, is one giant Statue of Liberty type thing, and a little statue that Nynaeve holds, and there's a big statue, male one, and a little statue that Rand has, and they clean the filth out of the male Sidan using that. But of course the American Psychic Warfare Program is using this because it's programming the quantum computer, AI, to learn what powers that humans possess. So one can see this as a whole list of what the American Psychic Warfare Program wants from its operators, who of course can't use it because they're MK Ultra to the gazoo, but once they're hooked up, and they don't even need to be hooked up, do they? You can simply embed the chips in their brain, so they can be activated at home or asleep, preferably not while driving, to be used. You go into their trance, and they can see on the screen, the masters can see on the screen using these people whatever they want to see. Or we've now got a whole menu list of things that potentially they could be able to do, all embedded into the noosphere and into the quantum field via the quantum computer and CERN, and the audience, who are mainly Borg, who have been brought into this quantum field space. Think of it as a matrix. So while they're watching, they're not thinking, are they? So they're getting into that remote sensing state where you shut down your internal dialogue, and you can then contact the quantum field, and your quantum field can be stolen by all that nanotech, fed via the uplink, remember half the energy of the Borg is being sucked out 24/7. Bill Gates has got one of the patents for running wireless gizmos from humans. So you don't need to have a battery in your phone, you simply suck the energy out of the nanotech Borg. Don't believe me? I've shown you the patent. So one can see that psychic warfare is a lot more advanced than the general public know. But the main problem is the ruling class do not want people like me. Can you imagine thousands or hundreds of thousands of people like me? That'd be a nightmare, wouldn't it? Oh no, we want fully nanotech Borg with their Neuralink implants, fully MK Ultra, that can be used by the ruling class via their quantum computers as wetware to use these powers for themselves, but not for the wetware, which are the American psychic warfare operators. So if you're in the American military, NSA, whatever, you've had to have your nanotech injections. Mandatory. Now you understand why. And we see here, this orb embodies within the Borg all this amplification capability I was talking about to amplify the quantum perturbations, which is exactly what CERN is doing. So you must have wondered why I was boring you with all the CERN stuff and quantum computers. It's not boring at all, is it? It's part of a technology that has never been revealed to you, but has been revealed to you now. And this one here, this orb here, simply by observing it, or what I've done is stolen it. Well, I'm going to explain how we can steal anything in the Wheel of Time for ourselves. That is the ultimate amplifier for females. And that one will be used by Moraine to kill Lanfear. So that's what's coming. Not in the books, but that's what's coming. And as you can see, Lanfear is a loose cannon, and the Moraine orb installation will be used to target any super psychic females worldwide that might not be MK Ultra, because they're a danger. And then of course we got Kalimdor, the sword, which in the books is a powerful psychic amplifier for males, but isn't anywhere near as powerful as the big statue, with a little statue to control it, which now all of a sudden can kill the Dark One. There was nothing in the books about killing the Dark One, so obviously the Dark One, which would be Amalek, is the target for the American psychic warfare program. See, so you can see they're using the Wheel of Time as the control of consciousness observation. Remember the Copenhagen interpretation, collapsing the quantum wave function, to produce a localized event. So one can see that the Wheel of Time is the menu list for the powers that the elite can use via their quantum computers, which are controlled by them, and the wetware psychic warfare operators are just wetware, like in the Shadows spaceship, all completely installed with implants in their brains, totally controlled and unable to do anything but be wetware for the shadows, which comes from Babylon 5. So you must have wondered what we talked about Babylon 5. Now you understand the big picture. So this orb amplifies female channelers to the gazoo. And of course, if you hook up a female psychic warfare operator to this, it will then increase the quantum perturbations, because you've got the collapse of the quantum wave function, all defined by the audience, who are in this remote sensing state, because they're not thinking, they're just observing, so that the female psychic warfare MK Ultra wetware doesn't need to think about going to CERN and quantum computers and invading them and sequestering their quantum perturbation when they're doing it at the time, which would mean knowing when it was fired up, or being able to travel through time and sequestering in a linear fashion or in a 5D fashion all at once the perturbations for themselves. And as you can see, yours truly has done that. That's why CERN's behaving in ways they don't understand, and quantum computers are, because they've all been taken over by yours truly. But you certainly don't want more than one of yours truly. Can you imagine the world leaders having 100,000 of yours truly? That would drive them mad. At least now they know where he is. He's in Vietnam, and he's not teaching any of the high-end stuff to our wetware, because we don't need him to teach our wetware. We've simply got them as wetware. So you see why they're not knocking at my door to teach their psychic warfare operators, because they don't want to teach the psychic warfare operators. They want them as wetware. So that's why the remote viewing programs in the States are trawling through applicants looking for those who can remotely view, and then of course they are MK Ultra implanted and used as wetware in the American psychic warfare program. You must wonder, why are they teaching Americans remote viewing when it endangers national security? That's the reason. And of course the CIA chappie told me that they could block out simple remote viewing, otherwise they wouldn't be teaching them. So we get that remote viewing can be blocked. And the simple remote viewing they're teaching the public is simply a trawling mechanism to find the channelers, who then are nanotech and MK Ultra and brought in to the program. Or they can be tortured via microwave and various other modalities to get them into a high state of panic, get them hospitalized, shipped to the gazoo, MK Ultra, and shipped out again. That's what he did to David Morehouse when he went off message. See it in his book. Now we know this is the menu. There's a problem because it was stolen from moi, and I caused the death of Janklow. Morton Janklow stole the first manuscript I sent to New York and gave it to the thief Robert Jordan, and I killed him as well. And he couldn't finish the book, so he had to get some Mormon chappie to finish the books from his notes, because he'd already been taken out by yours truly. And if you're five-dimensional, then if you're the cause of the death of the target, then their entire life is sequestered by you. So the time density from his conception to death, which is everything he did, controlled totally by me. So the wheel of time is totally controlled by me, and it doesn't matter if Amazon are changing the books, because it's just a subset of the wheel of time controlled by me. And of course we can see that all the Amazon people are going to be killed by the Cobalt 60, which always happens, so that their entire lives from conception to death controlled by me. So you can see why the Wheel of Time is useful to me, and if you want to be able to use it as me, but not yourself, that's the proviso, then of course you need to get a Forsaken service, because I haven't been selling Aes Sedai services, or the Black Aes Sedai, or the Male Channelers services. I only sold the Forsaken. Now, if you've got a Forsaken service, there we are, the powerful Forsaken. 13 Forsaken ranked.
The Wheel of Time, the Forsaken are among the most powerful and feared beings in existence. Once revered as the greatest Aes Sedai of the Age of Legends, they betrayed humanity and pledged loyalty to the Dark One in exchange for immortality.
So you can guess who the Dark One is? Yours truly. Now, remote viewing is vital if you wish to use your Forsaken powers, because what you do is remotely view not a distant location, but you remotely view your character in the Wheel of Time.
Imaginable power. For over 3,000 years, they remained sealed away, but as the Dark One's influence grew, they were gradually released back into the world, bringing chaos, war, and destruction.
I think I'm better looking than that, don't you?
Incredible strength in the One Power, but their real danger lies in their intelligence, ruthlessness, and centuries of experience. Though they serve the Shadow, they are not a unified force. Each Forsaken has their own ambitions, rivalries, and schemes, making them just as dangerous to one another as they are to the forces of light. Let's break down each of the 13 Forsaken, exploring who they were, what made them terrifying, and how they influenced the world of the Wheel of Time. 1. Ishamael. Ishamael, whose original name was Elon Morin Tedronite, was the greatest philosopher of the Age of Legends. Unlike the other Forsaken, who turned to the Shadow for power or ambition, Ishamael genuinely believed that the Dark One would eventually win and that all existence was meaningless. As the Dark One's most devoted servant, he became...
As we see, this Iranian is Ishmael in the Wheel of Time. So if you've got the Ishmael service, what you do is project yourself into Ishmael, you being the demon. We talked about demonic possession, did we not? So what you're doing is bilocating. That's a certain aspect of remote viewing where you wake up in the energy body where you're viewing. But in this case, for bilocation, you wake up inside the character on the TV screen. And you know, of course, you get into the remote sensing state because you're in Gogglebox mode and you switched off the parasite in your feeble brain. And well, how do I bilocate? Well, bilocation's easy. It's in the art of dreaming. How you wake up in another world is to go to the other world, which of course is remote viewing interdimensional realms. That's another story. But once you're there, you have to fall asleep in that realm, in the position that you're in this realm. And then you wake up, fall asleep again in that position, in that realm, and then wake up again. So what you have to do is find the character that you wish to sequester take up the position that they are holding, and then switch off your internal dialogue, go into the delta state, fall asleep in that position on the TV screen, not once but twice, in order to possess your character. And then of course you're all linked to the American Psychic Warfare Program, the Wetware, the Borg, CERN, the quantum computer, and you've got your wish list of powers and potentials that you can use with quantum perturbations to influence reality for the Dark One, which is me. So you see why I didn't sell Sedai services or male channeler services, because of course we can't have you doing what you wish. We've got to do what the Dark One wishes. See? So you see why I will never sell Sedai services or male channeler services. Anyway, let's continue.
Though his relationship with them was complex. He did not seek personal power, nor did he care about ruling the world. He only sought the end of everything. Ishamael is unique among the Forsaken because he was never fully sealed away like the others. Instead, he was periodically able to influence the world throughout history, keeping the cycle of conflict alive by corrupting rulers, spreading war, and ensuring that humanity...
And just by chance, what's the big war coming up? And there's your ugly Iranian, Ishmael, who is there to end all things. How will he end all things? Well, covering America with Cobalt-60. You just can't make this up, can you?
Those grasp. His manipulations helped create the Trolloc Wars, the collapse of great kingdoms, and the weakening of the White Tower. Upon his full release, he becomes the Dark One's right hand, leading the forces of the Shadow against Rand al'Thor and the champions of the Light. However, his fatal flaw is that, despite his power, he is a nihilist who ultimately underestimates humanity's will to fight back. 2. Lanfear.
Now, of course, luckily, one of the vampires who's a male bought the Lanfear service on my advice. So then, of course, he can use the orb. Good, eh? Because remember, the Dark One can turn Forsaken from one sex to the other. Just like in The Art of Dreaming, where the Tenant inverts his energy body and spends most of his time as a woman. Because, of course, the interdimensionals crave male energy, so if you don't be bothered by them, you want to forego being ensnared by interdimensionals who lust after male energy, which is super rare in the multiverse, then you turn yourself into a female. Explained in The Art of Dreaming. As in the Power of Silence, where being able to go into the quantum vacuum, which they call the dark sea of awareness, it's in the Power of Silence, is called Dreaming Awake, which he thinks Don Wanda was a useless name and someone would come up with a better name, which of course is lucid waking. Lucid dreaming, lucid waking. Anyway, here's Lanfear.
Myron Aranale was one of the most powerful female channelers of the Age of Legends. She was known for her obsessive love for Luz Therin Telamon, the man who would later become the Dragon Reborn. Unlike most Forsaken, Lanfear did not turn to the Shadow for power or revenge against society. She did so out of jealousy and desire. When Luz Therin rejected her, she became consumed by bitterness and sought to unlock a power greater than the One Power, hoping to elevate herself above even the Aes Sedai. This led to the discovery of the Dark One's prison, resulting in the War of Power and the ultimate breaking of the world. Lanfear is one of the most cunning and unpredictable Forsaken. Unlike the others, who see the Dragon Reborn as an enemy, Lanfear believes she can bend Rand al'Thor to her will, making him her king, her lover, and the ruler of a world where she holds ultimate power. Her ability to manipulate Teleran Riot, the world of dreams, makes her especially dangerous, allowing her to influence reality in ways few can counter. However, her downfall is her obsessive nature. She cares more about claiming Rand for herself than about truly serving the Dark One. 3. Demandred.
So if we've got our Lanfear wannabe, it's Taylor, who's sitting on the telephone box with her Rand al'Thor, because remember, it's all my intent. It says in shamanism, it's lethal to step into another shaman's intent space. Because if you read The Art of Dreaming, you can simply go into the second attention and create the reality you want simply by visualizing and intending it. So the Wheel of Time is my intent space, and anyone who watches or reads the book gets sucked into my reality, whether they like it or not, where I control everything. I am the God, omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent in my intent space, which of course is the Wheel of Time intent space, which thankfully the American military and the Jews and the publishing houses and then thought they could steal from me, but of course all they stole was my damnation and omegalization via Jeremiah Schwartzy boy and his ilk, because the key aspect of the source is there's only one source. So if you're not the source, you get eternally tortured to make new source. No ifs, buts or maybes. So the cameraman's going to be eternally tortured and there's no escape for him. So only the source escapes eternal torture, except what happens if you get some fool or some group of fools to steal my cameraman's damnation by trying to steal me? When they stole me, they stole the IOU, which is they steal the damnation of anyone who becomes a vampire for themselves. Because they try to be me, can't be me. What they steal is me, which is all the vampires who are all Omega hell beasts, eternally tortured. They just don't know it yet. That gets stolen from them just to leave me, which is the source. So you can see the paradox, the way you get out of making chaotic entities source. You don't. You get their chaos stolen, and they simply are new vessels for more source, avoiding their eternal damnation. So they should be very, very fucking thankful to yours truly.
Was one of the most gifted generals and channelers of the Age of Legends, second only to Luz Therin Telamon. This fact haunted him his entire life. No matter how strong, intelligent, or capable he was always overshadowed by the dragon. His hatred for Luz Therin grew over time, and when the opportunity arose, he turned to the Dark One, hoping to finally surpass his rival and claim the world for himself. Demandred's obsession with Luz Therin defined his entire existence. Unlike other Forsaken, who sought power for themselves, Demandred wanted only one thing, to prove he was better than Luz Therin. After being freed, he disappears for years, secretly establishing the Empire of Shera, an isolated and powerful nation. He gathers a massive army, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. During the last battle, he emerges as the greatest general of the Shadow, leading an overwhelming force that nearly crushes the armies of light. Demandred is one of the deadliest Forsaken, not just because of his strength in the One Power, but because of his military brilliance and sheer hatred. His downfall, however, is his obsession, his belief that he could defeat Rand blinds him to the true complexities of the pattern. 4.
So you can see that once you buy a Forsaken service, you take over the powers and proclivities of that character by remotely viewing and then bilocating into them demonic possession, as in The Exorcist. And whenever you want to use any of the wish list of powers, that character displayed in the books, which are a lot, and they do have different capabilities. This one's perfect if you want to be a side general and lead armies. Let's go to the next one, Grendel.
Grendel, originally Cameril Moradin Neemdar, was once a respected psychiatrist and healer in the Age of Legends.
So this one is perfect if you want to mind F everybody and take control of them, which is the whole basis of remote influencing. So the person who gets this Forsaken has the ability, like I do, to simply possess any person I like and get them to do anything I wish, which I've done on many occasions to do sacrifice rituals. So instead of having people in the basement, I do it on the world stage, using, of course, Grendel's power, which is the ability to totally control the minds of others.
She became obsessed with pleasure, indulgence, and absolute control over others. Unlike the other Forsaken, who turned to the shadow for revenge or ambition, Grendel did so out of pure decadence. She saw the world as pointless and cruel, and rather than trying to change it, she chose to embrace its worst aspects. Her specialty was compulsion, a terrifying weave of the one power that allowed her to completely dominate the minds of others, turning them into obedient slaves. She surrounded herself.
As you can see, I've mastered this, and any time I want to sacrifice on the world stage, away we go. There's a bombing, there's a knifing, there's a shooting, there's a truck running over, there's a car running over, all on demand. So as a black magician, you can simply do your sacrifice and then get all the observers and the news to super amplify it, as with the Sangreal, to take black magic into a realm that normal black magicians never dreamt of. You've got basically billions to worship your ritual and the sacrifice which you have carried out on the world stage, not in some basement somewhere. All done using this Forsaken's power.
Intelligent individuals, stripping them of free will and using them for her own amusement. Despite her heathen...
As you can see, it's very useful, having taken over Starmer, Macron, the idiot that runs Canada, and a whole host of others. Yours truly simply controls them on his chessboard, and he's driven the Europeans so batshit crazy, they want to declare war on Russia, which of course is wonderful, because then the Russians can drop a nuke on London with all those electric cars and cover all of Western Europe with lovely Cobalt 60, the ultimate vermicide for Westerners. So as you can see, none of my targets have any control over themselves. They're all controlled by psi, all amplified by CERN, by quantum computers, all powered by the Borg, and of course the entire American psychic warfare wetware, all totally controlled by me. So that's why the Americans can't find the suitcase nukes buried. All they get on the TV screen is the Tim Refat Show. Cobalt 60 coming to you soon.
the most cunning and dangerous Forsaken. She was a master of deception, strategy, and psychological warfare, often allowing her enemies to believe they had won only to reveal that she had been controlling them all along. Her greatest strength was her ability to manipulate people without them even realizing it, making her one of the most insidious and terrifying enemies of the light. 5. Sam'el. Sam'el, originally known as Tel Jaynen A. Lenser, was one of the most gifted military commanders of the Age of Legends. He was known for his brilliant battlefield tactics, but also for his ruthless and prideful nature. Much like Demandred, Sam'el was constantly overshadowed by Luz Darren Telamon, which led to deep resentment and an eventual turn to the shadow. Unlike some of the other Forsaken, who sought personal power, revenge, or pure chaos, Sam'el's motivations were simpler, but just as dangerous. He wanted to prove that he was the greatest general the world had ever seen. He believed that the Dark One would reshape the world in his image, and he wanted to be at the top of that new order. Sam'el was known for his signature golden armor and battlefield presence, commanding armies with absolute precision and discipline. After being released from his prison, he quickly established control over Ilion, one of the most powerful nations in the Westlands, using it as a base of operations to wage war against Rand al'Thor. Despite his military genius, Sam'el's greatest weakness was his pride. He could not stand the idea of facing Rand head-on unless he was sure of victory, which made him hesitate at crucial moments. In the end, his overconfidence led to his downfall as he underestimated Rand and the forces of the light. 6. Semirhage. Semirhage, born Nimin Daminder Bone, was once a highly respected healer in the Age of Legends. However,
So, this one's great for me because I get all the wonderful healing ability to heal me from microwave, directed energy weapons from the Americans, hordes of disposables spraying bioweapon here, there and everywhere. And of course all the ill effects that I've had from decades of abuse by the British filth, soon to be hellised. Well, they're being hellised as we speak. But this is wonderful if, like me, you're super keen on healing yourself, and the converse, you're super keen on unhealing all your enemies.
pleasure in causing pain rather than healing. As a result, she was disgraced and cast out by the icy die of her time.
As I say, Charles and the former Defence Secretary can attest to the effectiveness of this technology. He got them right in the balls. As the Queen can, and as Middleton can, with the body double running about now.
One offered her the chance to serve him. She embraced the shadow wholeheartedly, becoming one of the most feared figures in history. Semirhage's skill in breaking the minds of her enemies made her a terrifying force.
And of course this one turns people into not sex slaves like the former one, worshipping her. This one turns them into mindless zombies that are totally controlled by her to do what she wants. And as I've explained, I've been doing this for decades with a world stage of black magical sacrifices. Now, of course, we've got the huge black magic sacrifice, which is Iran getting toasted and America getting covered with Cobalt-60. And bad times, of course, for Israel. So you can see everyone who's my torture toy thinks they're in control of their faculties, when in fact they're just totally mind controlled. Where do I get the power from? Here it is.
Was a master manipulator, able to destroy a person's identity and rebuild them as her perfect puppet. Even the most strong-willed individuals could not withstand her methods. After her release, she worked to destabilize Rand al'Thor's alliances, using political maneuvering and psychological terror to weaken him. One of her most infamous acts was disguising herself as an emissary from the Shan-Chan Empire and nearly breaking Rand's mind through sheer cruelty. Her downfall came when she underestimated Rand's resistance. Despite her terrifying abilities, she was ultimately captured and executed, proving that even the most sadistic of the Forsaken could not escape justice.